just to check, can everyone hear okay? Got maybe someone who has a hearing aid? Can that person hear okay?
No, you are definitely softer than you were last night, so please.
Okay.
I can turn you up.
I think it should be okay. I'll just get closer. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope everyone had a nice morning. And if you didn't have a nice morning, I hope you had a nice lunch. And if you didn't have a nice lunch, I hope you had a nice nap. And if you didn't have a nice nap, then hope you've got the mental flexibility to just see all that, hold all of whatever's coming up for you. And it's good. I really appreciated Ajahn Nisabho's formulating this whole retreat as just a way to be friendly with ourselves. This whole theme of pamojja, the well-being and the well-being cascade. Ajahn Nisabho this morning spoke really beautifully about the second door to pamojja, which is generosity, and that's kind of the whole day's theme. It's just how can we bring generosity into our practice and into our lives, even when we're on retreat, even when we're just sitting with our eyes closed. How can we be generous with ourselves? And that's the general pattern for the rest of the week, is we'll be introducing a new door to pamojja each morning, and then each afternoon session, we'll talk a little bit more about the different aspects of this well-being cascade. So, just for a reminder, the Buddha said, when you do X, so when one is generous, or when one is able to relate with faith, when one is virtuous, when one is endowed with learning or wisdom, then well-being pamojja arises. That's the first pool in this cascade. And when one has a sense of well-being, then piti arises, that's joy. And when the mind has this piti, then the body relaxes, pasada. And when the body's relaxed, then the mind can become happy, or even can experience pleasure, sukha. And when the mind is happy, then the mind can concentrate and get into samadhi. And then you see things as they are and experience dispassion, cessation, and liberation. So that's great. All of that's great. And each of the afternoons we'll be discussing a different tier in this, what we're calling the cascade. And why we choose that terminology, it's based on one of the Buddha's suttas where he says, just as if large raindrops were to fall on the top of a mountaintop, and then were to stream down the sides and fill the clefts, and from the clefts they were to fill up streams, and from the streams they were to fill up ponds, and from the ponds they would fill up small rivers, and from the rivers eventually they would flow out and fill up the great ocean. And so too, all of these doors to pamojja are like the thick, fat water drops. And it's just natural that when there's a lot of rain, when we're putting in the causes to bring forth this nourishing, this rain, this moisture into our practice, some softness and some nourishment and some fluidity into our practice, then it's natural that the more we do that, it'll just fill up and rush more and more down the hill, filling up this sense of well-being to delight or joy and relaxation and happiness and concentration and seeing things as they are, and all the way down to the great ocean of liberation. So this is the practice, and it makes a Buddhist life, it makes a practice life sustainable, because if we're just gritting our teeth and bearing it the whole time, then even if it looks impressive to the person next to you, or if you've got some kind of mental image of yourself as the warrior practitioner, there's certainly a place for that, but If you're just gritting your teeth all the time, you're going to wear your teeth down. And not sure where that metaphor goes, but yeah, bringing some moisture to the practice. There's a beautiful word in Thai called nam jai. Nam jai. There are all these words in Thai. We're part of a larger Thai tradition, which use the word jai, which literally means heart. And it's a word which is often translated from the Pali chitta, or the mind. And in Thai, the jit jai is the heart mind. So rather than being the mind being something cerebral up in the head, the mind is located, at least metaphorically, in the heart space. So you've got all these different heart words, and this nam jai is literally nam, the water of the heart. And you say, oh, that person has a lot of nam jai, that person has a lot of this water of the heart. And it basically means it's someone who's generous, it's someone who is able to give, someone who's able to give up, someone who's able to give in, forgive, someone who's flexible, someone who has a sense and a capacity for cognitive flexibility. And that's what we want. That's what we want. That's a part of the Buddhist path. Certainly part of concentration practice is again and again bringing the mind back to the breath, or bringing the mind back to the body, or bringing the mind back to a mantra. But in doing that, the whole way that we relate to this endeavor needs to have flexibility built in. So all of us have taken on this, hopefully, retreatants taken on this practice of noble silence. And there are lots of different ways to relate to noble silence with more or less nam jai. I know for the first 2-3 month retreats every year at our monasteries, we have a 3-month retreat, and I know for maybe the first 2 or 3 years, my practice wasn't, it was silent, but it was more of like noble grimacing, basically. It was a practice of noble grimacing versus noble silence. And basically I have this idea that the more I can be basically fetishizing not speaking as an indication of seriousness around practice, whereas I think a better model is one of, noble smil-ance. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much about just being quiet, although that does support everyone's practice, your own included. But if you're able to smile and not necessarily, looking up at everybody, and that's probably not helpful, but being able to have, as Ajahn Nisabo was pointing out, this smile on the inside of your mouth, or this smile in your eyes, or the smile in the heart, that really creates a communal atmosphere. Even if we're not talking to each other, even if we're not looking at each other, it creates a friendly environment where people feel safe. So that's really important. So the first 2 pools, after these droplets have come down from the clouds of practice, are pamojja, the main theme of this retreat, and piti. And sometimes you find both of these words in a compound in Pali as Piti-pamojja. They occur a lot together. And just looking at each one of those can really help our practice, and not just from an intellectual understanding of what the teaching is pointing to, but really from you can bring it into the body. You can bring insights about these words, these concepts, these ideas, these practices into your body and really live them and feel them from the inside. You'll understand as we just continue. So looking at pamojja, Sanskrit and Pali are really cool languages. They're really cool. Most or all verbs have a root, which really contains the kind of seed meaning of different words. So pamojja, the root there is mud, and it can either mean joyful, to be joyful, or it can mean soft, to be soft, or to soften. So you can remember that mud is like mud, and not like dirty, gross mud, but just soft, like clay. you can remember it as this mood of happiness, this mood of gladness, which we are inclining the mind to. And this is a training. This is a training, as we chanted this morning in the discourse on breath meditation. One of them is Piti-pamojja asasisamiti pasasisamiti. One trains thus: I will breathe in, gladdening the mind. Piti-pamojja. So what Pali does is it takes these roots and just adds prefixes and suffixes to them, which elaborate on the meaning, especially these prefixes. So adding on to this initial soft core, this soft root of mud is pa. So this is actually two prefixes, pa plus a, which is an increasing and a fulfilling of this softness. So it's a real softness of mind, and it's a well-being, a sense of well-being. As Ajahn Nisabo mentioned, sometimes if you talk about joy and training in joy, it can actually be a negative reinforcement for practice. Some people, if you can't get into a joyful state, then you might just think you're hopeless, and it can actually make you feel worse. Whereas this sense of well-being, which Pamojja is talking about, it can be very subtle. It can grow in strength and solidity and reliability the more you pay attention to it and care for it and nurture it. But it's more subtle than joy, and it requires more finesse in the way that you relate to it. You can't just joy, yourself. You have to not necessarily sneak up on it, but just recognize a sense of well-being when it comes up and lean into it and allow it to undergird, and see how it does undergird your awareness and in what ways that happens. So other words with this mud root, we've got, which some people might be familiar with, in the Metta Sutta, you've got the word mudu, which is translated as able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech. But really, it doesn't have to relate to speech there, it's just straightforward and gentle. So bringing a gentleness, that's part of mud, that's part of pamojja, is a gentleness. It also comes up in mudita, the third of the Brahma Viharas, the divine abidings, the mature emotions, which is sometimes translated, this mudita, as sympathetic joy or empathetic joy. It's that which takes delight. It's the opposite of jealousy. Rather than wanting what that other person has and being envious of them, you take delight in their happiness. And that's related to pamojja, is mudita. And also anumodana. Anumodana, you might have heard monks say this from time to time. Oh, anumodana, anumodana. And that's the way that Western monks say it. Anumodana, guys. And it's almost a Buddhist thank you, which it literally means delighting in your goodness, or delighting in the good that has been done. Anu is along with, and then modana, mud, delighting along with you. It's wonderful that you did, and it's a Buddhist thank you, because it really, unlike, it's great, we can also say thank you, but this delighting in your goodness really, it aligns with the law of karma, in that there can be a way that if you say, okay, yeah, thank you, then it's almost a tit for tat. You've done something nice for me, and I've said thank you, and okay, it's over, job's done. Whereas this anumodana, I delight in what you've done, it just amplifies, it encourages and creates this resounding, this echoing of the goodness that's been done, rather than just closing the loop. Okay, you've given me food, anumodana, or thank you, and we're done. I'm going to go do my thing. But anumodana, you've done something beautiful. So this pamojja, a sense sense of well-being. Figuring out how to bring that into practice and bring it into your life, bring it into your posture, and bring it into your mind while you're meditating and throughout the daily life, daily chores. Another place that this mudu comes up is in an Abhidhamma list of wholesome mind states that relate to and are present in jhanic meditation, so an absorptive, immersive meditation. You've got the mudu cetasika, the soft or gentle, responsive mental states, cetasika, and you've got mudu kaya, or a soft body. You've got a soft body. So there's a list of, it's actually 16. We probably won't go into all of them, certainly not today, but these are wholesome mental states which are present in, certainly in all of the jhanas, and really in any wholesome mind state, this aspect of mudu chitta, a soft mind, and a soft body, bringing relaxation into it. Ajahn Nisbo gave this morning a really great and useful simile of stacking the vertebrae when you come to sit in meditation. Stacking the vertebrae like a column. And that's really good, especially if one's feeling tired, so especially that can happen after the meal. And then you're balancing the head on top of that column. Another image, which is good and can work as you're trying to figure out the nuances of this pamojja, is just like a dandelion, just like a dandelion. So imagine your spine like the stem of a dandelion. We've got all these beautiful yellow flowers out there. So our face is the dandelion turning to the sun, and the spine is, especially in the mornings or in midday, it's upright, but there's a flexibility to it as well. So feeling into the body, always being aware of the body. The Buddha said that one thing, when developed and cultivated, leads to the deathless, leads to liberation. What is that one thing? Mindfulness of the body. So it's always good to, whatever your meditation object is, the breath is already intimately created and related to the body. Mantras don't have to be, but it's good if they are. So always staying embodied as much as you can. And paying attention to and being, finding ways to bring softness to your posture and to the way you relate to your posture. I know a lot of people experience pain in the body, and you might not be able to soften up as much as you'd like. So softening up as much as you can, and then letting the mind fully soften up around what the body is, the truth of our imperfect and broken bodies. Letting the mind be soft around that. The next term is piti. So the drops are falling on the mountaintop, and they filled up this pool towards the top of pamojja, and then that pool overflows and becomes piti. So you can think of it like this well-being cascade is sequential. This one fills up, it overflows, fills the next, the gully, which fills up the stream, which fills up the pond, which fills up the river, which fills up the ocean. Or you can think of it as at the same time, and both conceptions have truth to them. The rain is raining down on the whole mountain. So we've come to piti, which, as we mentioned earlier, one root for it is to drink, to imbibe, to be nourished. So to drink in. There's this term Dhamma piti, Dhamma piti. So the piti, the joy of the Dhamma. Other ways it's translated is you have delight or even rapture. So again, in the discourse we chanted at this morning at 6:15, you do this training. One trans thus, I will breathe in, experiencing rapture. They translated rapture there. Piti-pamojja asasisamiti. I will breathe in, experiencing pleasure, experiencing rapture, experiencing piti, experiencing this nourishing, drinking in, and hopefully everyone can relate to that, at least for periods of time. Another place that this word piti comes up in is as one of the 5 jhana factors. So jhana, absorption, has 5 factors. You've got vitaka and vichara, which are directed thought evaluation. So there's an element of mentally remembering your object, and even specifically thinking around that in more and more simple ways, simpler and simpler, less and less gears turning type of thinking, and more just coming back to a theme. So vitaka vichara, directed thought evaluation, piti, sukha, and which are delight and happiness, or delight and pleasure, and one-pointedness or unification of mind. So it would be wonderful. The more we put in the causes in our meditation, the more we come back to our meditation object in a really friendly way. The deeper and more refined the mind can be, the more clear our awareness can become, the more settled and grounded our experience can become, and the more profound states of meditation we can all experience. So if anyone can experience jhana during this retreat, you should do that, please. And becoming familiar with this this delight. What does this mean? How do you relate to that? And jhana is hard to define. Pretty much, every meditation teacher, even great meditation teachers, even people who we might believe are arhats, Mahasi Sayadaw or Upandita or Paul Sayadaw, they've got different definitions for what is jhana, for what is samadhi, for what is piti, for what is sukha. And I think more than trying to find an exact label, okay, that state I experienced 2 months ago, that was the rapture, that was the piti, and that's what I'm always going to be going for. And if I don't get there, then the meditation's a failure. But more is relating to it as like sticky notes. Okay, yeah, this seems to have a flavor of that, the joy that they're talking about. You can even translate it as zest or thrill. So the commentarial literature talks about 5 levels. So we got lots of numbers. If you're not a numbers person, then no worries. Just come back to the softness. But the Buddha talked a lot about numbers. But the commentaries even went more. They went hard on the numbers. But 5 types of piti. You've got piti, which is upwelling, which fills the body. You've got piti, which is downpouring, as if you have cool rain falling on you. You've got piti, which lifts up the hair follicles, so you get this horripilation. You get this hair standing on end. You've got the piti, which is parana, which just fills the body. And you've got piti, which laps over the body like waves onto the ocean, or waves onto the shore. So piti can be that good. It can be that good. And when you talk about that level of rapture, it is, rapture is a good word. Rapture is a great word. But really, it doesn't need to be that extreme. And really, those states can be a little bit, it can almost be too much. You've got too much energy coming up. The waves are, they get heavy. So, yeah, just, what do these things mean to you? Just deeper and more profound, more subtle levels of coolness in your practice, this pamojja, this piti, and seeing how little and bigger aspects, ways of giving, of dana, giving yourself to the practice, giving yourself to this initial faith that you have that, this isn't just complete make-believe, that these jhana states exist. Hopefully everyone's experienced in previous meditation retreats or even just sitting outside in nature, quietude of mind, quietness and stillness. When you're not feeding on anything, you're just content. It's almost as if you're your own, you've got an internal kind of camel pack. You're able to provide your own namja, your own mental nourishment. You're just drinking in this sense of well-being and remembering that, if you have experienced that, and opening up to it and allowing it. So Pamojja and Piti. I thought the next session had started at 2:45. Just sit with all of that. It's a lot of words, but hopefully it's also something that we can remember and tune into in the body. let's see if we can keep doing this for the rest of the retreat. This training. I will breathe in, gladdening the mind, softening the mind, softening the body, forgiving myself, forgiving others, giving in, being generous. I will breathe in, experiencing piti, experiencing this nourishment from inner reservoirs of well-being. We've got the rest of the afternoon. Now got 3 45-minute sessions, and still a little bit before 3, but we can start the next session just after an announcement or two. So from now until 3:45, we'll have another group practice discussion, and that's in the interview, the group meeting room, which has a red door, I believe. Blue. Good call. Blue door. Hopefully everyone can find that who's signed up back there. And as we were trying to suggest this morning, although we have on the schedule, it's sit for 3:45 to 4:30, and then walk from 4:30 to 5:15. Just opening that up so people can either sit or walk during any of these 3 45-minute sessions. Just ask that people come in and out on the 45-minute marks, and would it be possible to have a bell ringer at each of those from outside the hall, or should we just plan to ring inside?
Caroline, what do you think? So it would just be one extra one, right?
I think so, yeah. Just,
Alright,
yeah. So there's already going to be a bell rung at 3:45, and there'll be rung at 5:15, and then just one more at the 4:30 mark. Maybe a volunteer, get to practice generosity at today's door. Anybody? Yes, all right, Matthew, thank you. Maybe you can get the download from Caroline. Okay, so people can continue either sitting or walking for this period.